It's Talk Funny, a podcast by Mark Bailey and comics from all over. We ended up in Japan because our milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, the prison yard. The Talk Funny podcast from Nagoyaradio.com and Nagoyacomedy. Here's Mark Bailey.
Okay, we're back with Talk Funny. We were just talking with Tim Lennane. I'm Mark Bailey, and we were talking about Jingle Girl. Jingle Girl sometimes comes in here, and she never knew Jingle Guy, but when I was at Radio I,
Jingle Girl,
I was doing the morning show, and I had this old cranky. You can imagine Lee Marvin. You remember him?
Yes, I do.
Japanese version of Lee Marvin, just an old cranky, weathered. You know, you'd never make him smile. He didn't speak a word of English, and my show was in English at the time, all English. And I'm doing like zoo crew stuff and wacky sound effects, and they've never done that in Japan before I did it in Nagoya Radio. And he's just scowling at me the whole time, and it just fueled me all the time, and just bouncing jokes off of him. There's a blues singer called Bo Diddley. You ever heard of? No, Jingle Guy doesn't know Diddley. Hey,
no Diddley, man.
Hey, there's different positions. You know, there's like stand and squat. Jingle Guy doesn't know squat. Oh, come on.
Man.
Hey, you used to call Richard Nixon Tricky Dick. Jingle Guy doesn't know Dick. Oh, come on. So we would riff off of that, and that's how we made. It was me. It was me and the scowling Jingle Guy. And he's dead now. And then I had an assistant, and we called her the Resistant because she was there basically just to spy on me. And she was supposed to get CDs for me when I asked for them, but she didn't know music. She hated music. She hated radio. Working at a radio station.
That is Japan.
It is, exactly.
She's employed, though, so that's all that matters.
For her, it might as well have been Domino's Pizza. She hated being there. And so I would make jokes about her, make parodies. Guns N' Roses had a song out at the time called You Could Be Mine, so I did a parody, You Could Be Nine, The Way You Pout, and this kind of thing. And I would make parodies.
That's a pedophile song, isn't it?
About this, yeah.
You could be nine.
And you could be mine.
Man.
And so that's how I made jokes on the radio. But we were talking last episode about like some things, the kind of jokes you did, and I kind of changed my style because I didn't used to do the nerdy kind of pun jokes in New York. That's just, it's too...
You get too many crones. Nobody cares.
Yeah, just say Desai. It's like, you know, it's like he just, I don't know, it's good for radio, but you wouldn't do that on stand-up. Mm-hmm. But here, when I came here and I would do jokes about, like, I would do, like, edgy stuff, and I would do things like, I can't remember the joke now. Go ahead and talk about what...
Old age is such a tragedy, man. It's so bad. It's like you try to remember, you know, what you were eating for lunch, and it's like, what and what's your name? But you know, when you have sex when you got Alzheimer's, it's kind of great because like once you're done, it's like, how was it for you? And you go, what do you mean? What? How was what?
Exactly.
Let's do it again.
Okay, I got it now. So I was doing edgy stuff, but the audience didn't get it because they didn't know. Like for example, I'd say kind of like when Ford said you can have any car, any color you want as long as it's black. In China, you can have any baby you want as long as it's male.
Right.
And then if you don't know that they really discourage females being born in China, then that's not funny to you, and it's not edgy because it just doesn't make any sense.
But there was like, I'm laughing inside, but no, yes.
And so people in the audience in New York, they'd get that, and they'd be like, I can't even believe you said that, right? That's what they want. But here, they'd be like, I don't even, because they didn't read the news. That wasn't on HuffPo. I didn't notice that.
They are not interested that much outside of the country.
They don't read a lot of stuff. You know, they read, but there's a lot of poets. Seriously, poets. They're into poetry, writing screenplays and stuff here in Nagoya, but they don't always read all the headlines. I had to change it to kind of more nerdier stuff, and also I realized any double entendre that they will jump on it. They love that. That's the kind of puns they like, you know.
And slapstick. I mean, they do like the physical comedy. Obviously, I do a little physical comedy just because I've got a potato-shaped body, and when I start jiggling and jumping around on stage, it's funny. And the Japanese laugh at that. They don't laugh at any other joke.
Yeah, if you eat enough French fries, fried potatoes, you will get a potato-shaped body. Even though it's not, you would think it would be a French fry-shaped body. That wouldn't be bad. I wouldn't mind that. Nice and tall and thin.
Yeah.
So basically, juxtaposition is what all comedy is. You take two words that two ideas that don't go together. Like, so you wrote for Ultraman. You wrote Ultraman. Right?
I wrote Ultraman, yes. Yes. I wrote one episode, Ultraman, the Komodo episode, Dynamite.
So I'm surprised you don't have.
1993.
I'm surprised you don't have more bits about Ultraman.
No,
maybe
actually,
you had some. You had some about Godzilla.
That's actually a tragic story because I got the director of that series called me up, who was a very dear friend of mine, was a golf pro and was teaching the Tsunobaraya guys how to golf. And he calls me up. Hey, it's Tim. He's like, yeah, what's up? And his name's King. Yeah, what's up, King? And he goes, do you know anything about Ultraman? Because apparently he didn't know anything about Ultraman. I said, yeah, I grew up in California. I saw all the episodes. I love Ultraman. It's my kid's famous hero. He goes, would you like to write an episode? Yes, I would love to write an episode.
Wow.
And he goes, okay, you can write the Gomorrah episode. But unfortunately for King is that, he directed all 13 episodes. He had convinced Surabaya, because he was a golf pro, convinced them to do an American version of the series in America. And they said yes. They came in and go, okay, here's $3 million, King. Go make us 13 episodes.
Wow.
And he put all the money, pretty much all the money went into the rubber suits.
Wow.
Everything else, I didn't get paid a whole lot for that.
I know from experience, rubber suits are more expensive than you would think.
Yeah,
they're really
very
expensive. And they're hard to clean.
Yes.
Yes. See what I did there? So
I see what you did.
Is that true?
No, keep going.
So one time in radio, I interviewed. One of the hardest things doing radio in the morning is like my bosses. I couldn't. One time I begged them. I heard Lars from Metallica was in town. I begged them to let me interview him, and they barely knew who Metallica was. They're just not into music. Why would a radio station be into music?
Who's Metallica?
Who's Lars? Are you sure he's from the States? Yeah, trust me.
Yeah, but we're at that age, like, people, like, do you remember Metallica? Everybody's like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
it's like Paul McCartney was in a band before Wings? Really?
Yeah.
And so...
Which Star Wars?
So my boss... Star Wars, why do you keep calling it... Why do you keep calling it one?
Yeah,
it's four. No, it's one. It's the first one. No, it's the fourth one. No, it's the first one. It's fourth, but it's first.
Yes.
It's really confusing.
Oh, man.
So my boss for radio would pick these... Usually whoever played at the Blue Note. Usually some jazz cover musician. Usually Japanese. People that you'd never heard of, Japanese musicians you never heard of, and they do like a cover of Somewhere Over the Rainbow or something like that. My job was I'm trying to make it fun, and I don't like jazz. I still don't like jazz, but I had to pretend that I liked it, and so I'm trying to make jokes. And the performers, I'm doing it in Japanese, but the artist is not used to interviews, and they're very shy because they're Japanese musicians. They're basically Asperger's. Most musicians, yeah. Yeah, what's your name? 今夜はライブあるですね。You have a concert tonight? はい。So, どういうライブしたいでしょうか? So, what kind of concert would you like to do?
はい。
そうですね。はい。Okay, this is not TV. They can't see you pausing. So I have to make it fun. So I just decided I'm just do ridiculous questions. The guy goes, yeah, I'm performing at the Blue Note, and then I've got a gig in Tokyo for... Ultraman in Japan changed their name. Is it Kamen Rider?
No. Ultraman is Ultraman.
I'll take your word for it.
Simple genre.
I didn't write a story for it, so I'll take your word for it.
But I'm a manga geek.
But it did happen to me. Somebody said they mentioned something. I thought it might have been Kamen Rider, and I said, "What is that?" And they said it's like Ultraman or something.
It is like Ultraman.
Okay, maybe that's what they said. Well, that's what it was. The musician. He goes, "I'm doing with some Kamen Rider," and he named something else. He said, "I'm taking pictures with them," and I said, "What is that?" And he goes, Ultraman. And I said, yeah. And he goes, so I'll be taking pictures with him and some others.
Oh.
And I said, so the real Ultraman or a costume Ultraman? The real Ultraman? And he just looked at me like I had a banana growing out of my ear. And then he goes, so he did it. Like, so he wanted me to cut his mic. So I cut his mic and he goes, Maji desu ka? I said,
really?
Go with it, yeah. So I said, the real Ultraman? And he goes, of course. He goes, kids are listening. Of course the real Ultraman.
Of course the real Ultraman, yes.
There's no other kind.
Ultraman, believe.
There is no, and he said,
I've got the beta capsule.
He said, my son's listening. Of course it's the real Ultraman. There is no fake Ultraman. I don't know what you're talking about. I said, I'm a joker, I kid. I got kids too, And then, they had these other two Japanese guys. One guy had a shamisen and one guy had a guitar. And they wanted me to ask him about the shamisen. But I don't care about the shamisen. And I don't care about these people. So, and these artists.
You're just an in-depth interviewer, right?
Well, they're just a pain in the neck for me when I have guests. I got other stuff going on. I got traffic. I got things that I have to do on the clock. I have to walk up to ABC News. And nobody's helping me. And I'm running a morning show that usually has 8 people helping, and I'm the only one. And if I screw it up, everybody blames me because nobody else knows how to do radio. And I'm just thinking about, in radio, you're thinking about, what am I doing in 8 minutes? In 8 minutes, I've got to end this interview and walk up to ABC News, which means ABC News comes on whether I'm playing a song or in the middle of talking. It's coming on at 55:55. So at 8:55, 55 seconds, it's coming on. And I have to make sure it's on and that I'm done with whatever I'm doing. I can't be running a commercial.
Yeah, that's all it for now. ABC News is coming on.
Yeah, it's a feed, right? So I have to get this guy out of here. So they said, ask us about the shamisen when you turn the mic on. So I said, okay. So he got on. I said, so we have these two guests. So somebody's holding, there's a very strange instrument there. Is that called a guitar? Because I want to talk about the guitar, not the shamisen. And he goes, no, it's called a shamisen. And I said, no, the other guy's holding the shamisen. I'm talking to you. You got a guitar. Tell us about the guitar and how did it get started? And he's like, we were ready to talk about the shamisen. And I'm like, yeah, see what I did there? This is live radio. He's like, well, everyone knows about the guitar. And I said, well, how do you pronounce it again? Guitar. I thought it was a country in the Mideast. Guitar. And I said, sorry, but we're out of time. So you guys are playing tonight at the Blue Note.
Yeah.
Which is why you're on my show.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're at the Blue Note. So try the veal. And I've been Mark Bailey, So that's what we do. And I tried to have fun with myself, And then I have
fun with myself all the time.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to admit that. And then I had my
air.
Producer, she was, we call her Hazel, and she didn't understand anything about music, and she didn't like humor, and she thought I was always, she goes, you're not serious enough for morning radio. I'm like, you don't know the first thing about morning radio. So she would come in and say, you did a very good job of translating the last guest that we had, but there's a couple of things where you made a joke and you didn't translate. And I said, I know, because I'm an entertainer. I don't work for the United Nations. I'm not a translator.
You're a news reporter, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm not a translator. I'm an entertainer, I'm a lover, not a fighter. You're neither one, Michael Jackson. I'm a boy lover, not a boy fighter. All right, so she would come in and explain comedy to me and explain radio to me. I'm like,
she sounds like she's really funny.
Yeah, she's not. Nirvana. I played Nirvana during Sweeps Week, and she's like, I know you like the hard stuff, but nobody knows that song. Yeah, Nirvana was the biggest thing in the world in 1992. That was the biggest thing ever. But trust me, people know Nirvana. It's just like, well, I've never heard of them. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't brag about that. You're in radio. This
reminds me of every manager I've ever had.
Exactly.
At an English school, they come in, they never teach English classes. They go, this is how you teach an English class. It's like, yeah, mm-hmm, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, okay, sure. Mm-hmm.
That word you use, it's not in the dictionary. Yeah, so I've always said this. If you have your choice between a vindictive boss that's on his or her game or an incompetent boss, always choose incompetent.
I agree with that.
Always.
So agree with that, man.
It's so much more fun. You can get away with so many things.
Yeah, a vindictive boss that's on his game is very, very scary, yes.
Yeah, there's a Canadian guy who came on before me, and his name was Jamie Davis, and he was pretty funny. And he would get in trouble because he was in the other studio. I was in the studio by myself. He had a studio full of handlers. And people that he didn't get to pick the music, he didn't get to write the jokes, he didn't get to do anything. And I did all of it on the other side. I was very free. And then I would get him in trouble because I would tape him and then I would talk back to him and make gags out of it. And so one time I got a memo from my boss and she said, you talk a lot about classic rock and you're playing to a classic rock audience, and I would like you in every show to try to see what segments of the audience you've ignored and then cater to them. So like, okay, that one memo, and you're like, okay, this is for people who have incompetent bosses. And so it's the band Boston, but it's a cover band called Boss Hole.
Yeah,
you may have a Boss Hole that you work with.
Yes,
and I invented that. Thank you.
Good.
And we did, more than a memo. It's more than a memo. Gives me comedy material for the next 7 years. You're such a moron.
I was thinking, I'm not the only one that has to deal with childish bosses and snotty memos and warnings, because you were just telling me just the other day how much you hate your bosses and some of the ridiculous memos and things that have been said to you. So I know that you agree with me. And so today we're going to do it for the working man. Okay? So this is for we have our big time ice dream band, as we sometimes do. They've been busy writing a song to appeal to the working man, people that have to deal with real boneheads for superiors. What's the name of the band? Well, they're calling themselves Boss Hole. It was more than a warning, more than a warning. Material for the next 7 years. A boss is a moron, has no experience and acts like a child. A real boss hole. hear how Hazel screws up a radio interview like a sleeping zombie. I even got this song from the memo phone. Once again, that was Boss Hole. Thank you very much, guys. That was very good.
And I'm just, making fun of her in front of her. And she's just